of honey. And as some of you, or maybe most of you, has already provided honeys from last year. I'm so thankful for those because they will create instruments for, tools for our students to work on them and analyze them for their biochemical potential, which also means their medicinal value. Okay. Cool. This is what happens when you change the computers, so this, the fonts don't fit anymore. Anyway, that's okay. That's my PhD degree. Is there a pointer or an By the way, if you want to play computers, are you too far? Yeah. So again, I would like to acknowledge USDA Next-Gen program. So that's a program established by Congress approval 3 years ago. And then the Next-Gen is like about $267 million program. And it was awarded to 33 different universities in the US and other So and we in Texas, we are among those, and we got awarded for $2.89 million for 5 years. So we are working here right now and it keeps going down. So hopefully this is giving us more opportunities to educate our undergraduate students. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the sweetest stuff. So okay, someone might already remember these ones, maybe it's already years. So honey is a natural therapeutic agent. So which means that it's not only a food, but honey is mostly used as a medicine for thousands of years by every civilization on Earth. So honey is used as a medicine more than a food. So please keep in mind. And for this reason, honey is called a nutraceutical. So it is nutritious and pharmaceutical agent. So, and most of the time we think that honey has, but honey has mostly sugar. There are 13 different types of sugars inside the honey, or even more. But we were able to identify 13 of them. And the major sugars are sucrose, glucose and fructose, which is about 70%. And then we have sucrose and maltose and other disaccharides. But other than that, do you know how many different chemicals inside them? I mean, we have this 0.5% minerals, vitamins, and enzymes. Do you remember how many different chemicals inside the honey or components? Let's make it interactive. So you understand. Don't be shy. Yeah, I mean, no points can be great. I mean, no extra credit. Let's guess the date. 50. Going once, going twice. 500. Yay! 3,500. So this is a very new news because this was from we collaborated with University of British Columbia for their metabolomic analysis. So we used the LCMS, liquid chromatography mass spectrophotometry. So they did the metabolic assay for us, and they were able to identify for at least 3,500 different chemicals inside them, and only 600 of them has names. So, which means that honey is very rich in different chemicals. Honey is not only sugar; all these things are other than sugars. And now we are working with another project with UTSA mass spectrometry lab. So we are working on proteomics of the honey. So what are different proteins like enzymes are found inside the honey, so that those can be used as biomarkers. So which means that honey, those chemicals will be used if the honey is real or not, or it is the coming which natural source it's coming from. But long story short, I mean, honey has very rich in different chemical compounds. So honeybees, they are collecting these chemicals from the plants, right? They're nectar sources. And their nectar sources can vary. It can be flower blossoms, but it can also be tree secretions or aphid or other insect secretions. So within the honey, as for medicinal products or bioactivities, so again, I wish I could use a laser pointer, but I'll just point here. So the things, the sugars are fructose, glucose, and cellulose and glucose. So we are all aware of those. But other than that, honey has a lot of enzymes in it. And these enzymes make honey a live food. So honey is a living food. So there are active enzymes inside the honey, which makes honey as a bioactive agent or biologically active agent. So these enzymes are invertase, glucose oxidase, diastase, and catalase. And all of them have different functions. For example, diastase is important that shows that honey has been cured by the bees, not by human. As you may know, some people are selling commercial beekeepers, they harvest the honey very early before it is sealed, and then they dry it by using fans or heaters around. So by this way, the amount of diastase goes low. So which means that by detecting the diastase activity, you can find out if the honey is cured by bees or by human. And this is an adulteration or violation. And the invertase is the enzyme, again, it is highly available inside the honey, because this is the enzyme that converts sucrose into glucose and fructose, which are the most enzymes. Glucose oxidase is a very important enzyme, because this enzyme is important for hydrogen peroxide production. And hydrogen peroxide is a very strong antimicrobial agent that most of us use to clean the wounds. Probably you remember those. And catalyze is another enzyme that will regulate the function of glucose oxidase. So if you have an enzyme inside the honey, now I will have a question. How many of you put honey in your hot coffee or hot tea? Raise your hand, please. Okay. How many of you wait until it cools down to a drinkable temperature? I can see how many people listen to my talk before. So you should not be putting honey in hot coffee or hot tea or almost. You know what is the reason? Well, you remember what is the reason? It kills the good stuff. Remember, enzymes are proteins, and proteins are heat level, which means that they are sensitive to temperature. So if you put honey in a very hot coffee or very hot tea, which will burn your mouth, it will also burn the honey's enzymes. So what is the optimum temperature? What is the desired temperature? It's pretty easy. Usually, if it doesn't work, or if it's burning up, if you try to treat it if it doesn't burn your mouth, it doesn't burn your mouth. Because our mouth is also very sensitive to heat. So you just have to wait until it cools down to drinkable temperature. So as well, we have several other compounds, but I'm going to focus on the flavonoids, phenolic acids, and tannins. So these are the chemicals that are coming from the plants, and the amount of these chemicals can change depending on the season, depending on the soil, depending on the climate, and rain, and all those things. And what they do is, in order to invite or attract the honeybees, when the nectar is provided to the honeybees by the plants, they also add these chemicals. These secondary metabolites are found in the nectar. So as the honeybees collect the nectar, they also collect these, small, very minuscule amounts of maybe micrograms or picograms of different chemicals in the honey as they collect the nectar. And without disturbing it, they just put them into the honey. And these bees collect these for their own health. Because there are some studies showing that the bees which produce high antioxidant honey, they are much healthier than compared to the low antioxidant bees. Because bees use antioxidant and antioxidant products for their health, for their constitution, or for their benefit. And then we also get this as a side benefit as we collect and eat the honey. So, and as I mentioned, honey is medicine. I used to have this honey as medicine, but I changed it. Honey is medicine more than food. And every civilization on earth, they used honey throughout history, like Greece and Romans, Arabs and Persians, Aztecs and Mayas, Indians and Greeks. They all used honey for medicinal purposes and primarily for hunting. So, I'm going to talk about the next ones. Honey is a medicine that is used for various purposes. So, let me ask you the audience, how do you use honey for medical purposes in your life? Yes. For cuts? Okay. Yes. Most sort.
You did, or you good? Hang on, to make sure I'm
for
over.
diabetes or constipation or ulcer. Yes, you can use honey for these purposes. That's the one. So these the blue ones are honey's properties, and orange ones or brown ones are honey. Which disease honey can be used? So all honeys, most of the honeys, well, not most of the honeys, some of the honeys have low glycemic index, which means that they are safe to be used by diabetic patients. But which honeys we need to do some analysis on because it's very hard to identify which honey has low glycemic index. But some honeys, like dark colored honeys, most of the time, they have low glycemic index and they will not spike the blood glucose level. So they can be used for diabetes. And then honey is rich in antioxidants. So can you tell me what are the main cause of most of the diseases? Inflammation, great. So inflammation is caused because of oxidative stress. So when the cells are under stress, they will initiate the inflammation. So oxidative stress is the free radicals, they will attack the cells and they will make the cells sick, in any type of cell. So honey is rich in antioxidants, so they will scavenge these free radicals. So for this reason, honey can be used for treatment or even prevention of cancer, neurological disorders such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, as well as gastrointestinal inflammations, and also cardiovascular diseases. So honey can be used and has been used for different diseases. And honey is anti-inflammatory and it is very relevant. But it is mostly functional for wound healing and as well as gastrointestinal diseases. Then honey is antimicrobial. This is the strongest property of the honey. So how many of you know Manuka honey? Manuka honey. Great. So what is the most important property of Manuka honey? Why it is medicinal? Why Manuka honey is expensive and sold as medicinal honey? Marketing, MGO. What is the MGO function for? It is antibacterial. So MGO, methyl chlorhexol, is an antibacterial. So you can kill the bacteria with MGO. But different honeys have different MGO levels for Manuka only. And Manuka, MGO is only found in Manukas, not other plants. But most of the honeys, as you will see in the next slide, have antibacterial properties. And then honey is also immunomodulatory, which means that it will help your immune system to boost before sickness, so it can help your body to get prepared for different diseases, and as well as it can help your immune system to fight with different infections. So what honey does is, in our body, honey. So honey helps our body to get back to balance, which is called homeostasis. So if you think about what is disease and what is health, it is just out of balance. If your blood glucose level, if your blood sugar level is out of balance, you have diabetes. If your neurotransmitters like serotonin or dopamine are out of balance, you have psychological disorders. Or if you have, more than too much in your intestines, out of balance, again, it is gastrointestinal disease. So our body always strives for balance. And what honey does is, honey helps our body to get back to balance. And how do we know this? For example, honey is antimicrobial. It should kill the bacteria, right? But there are a couple of studies showing that honey can differentiate the bacteria. So we have trillions of bacteria living in our guts. But honey doesn't kill them. Honey supports them. But honey selectively kills pathogenic bacteria, which causes disease. Or honey honey is being used for cancer cells. So when honey is applied to the cancer cells, it kills the cancer cells. Like, let's say liver cancer cells have been used, but it doesn't kill normal liver cells. So again, the main role of honey is getting back to the balance, homeostasis. Okay, I'm showing some clinical applications. I have so many slides about these, but I just picked the most gross ones or graphic ones. Okay, so if you are sensitive to large wounds, if you don't feel comfortable seeing big wounds of like more than a fist size, so you may look down or look somewhere else. But this is what they are about. So, as I said, honey is primarily used for wound healing by every civilization on earth. And even today, honey is being used in clinics. How many of you seen medicinal honey in a wound clinic or burn clinic? So they are available now, but the thing is, they are mostly monocle honeys. So I will show you some other results about this too. But this is a hemolytic bed sore. So the patient has neurological disorder, probably Alzheimer's, and she cannot move because she is hemiparalytic. So because not moving is good enough, so she got a wound on her, a small wound on her thigh, and that wound got infected and expanded and swollen. You can see how big it is compared the first image and the last image. How much this swelling is. So the patient, they decided to amputate, but before the amputation, they asked the patient if she would be, or her guardians, if she would be interested in honey trial. So it is basically just honey, and this one done is the north of Malaysia. So they use Malaysian tualang honey for this study. And then, as you can see, there's a lot of injection there. The yellow thing is pus. There are, and also there's lots of malodor, because these large ones smell pretty bad because of the protein digestive bacteria. So after 1 week of treatment, you can see the injection is completely gone, the slope is over, there's no more dead cells, and you can see clean, fresh tissue, red tissue coming out. So this shows that the wound has started to heal. It may seem bloody, but this is good because the wound is starting to heal. So that is week 2, and we'll see, and week 3, or week 4, the last one. So this patient was discharged from the wound clinic on week 7. So the wound was completely healed just by applying honey. Another one is this is a patient which has diabetic wound. So this is an unfortunate person. So he has, because some of the major symptoms of diabetes is neuropathy, right? Which means you don't feel the pain. So when you have a scratch under your foot or a cut, you don't feel it because that's what diabetes is like. It feels the nerve. So he got a neuropathy, he got an infection under his foot, and they decided to amputate his foot. And then he got another infection on his shin, they amputated his shin. And then he got another infection on the thigh, they amputated from the whole leg, from the hip. So as you can see, there's no more cut left. So, and this patient is most likely to die because of sepsis. Because this infection will break the blood system and it will start killing the other cells of the human body. And it will be multiple organ failure and death. So he decided to join the honey clinical trial, and then by applying honey, as you can see, here, so the bacterial infection is completely gone, and the tissues, slime is done, and new tissues coming up. And that is week 3, and the last one is week 4. So the patient ended up with extreme water from the altitude, and the patient survived. So, and then he can after this point,
You got the TV?
Another leg of process. Yeah. And this is another example that a restoration point. So this guy was a street fighter or chase fighter, and he got a slice in his arm because of a sword. And then that got infected. And if you see the first picture, most of the orthopedic surgeons will tell us let's cut it out because it needs amputation. It is highly infected and highly inflamed. So it is not the conventional treatments did not do any good for the patient. But he decided to attend or join the honey clinical trial. And 1 week later, you can see the large wound is getting smaller and it's getting the fresh tissues coming up, no more infection, and 2 weeks later, you have the wound almost completely healed. We don't have the last picture for this patient. You remember why? He ran away to this picture. Another one is burns. Again, burns are very critical, especially second or third degree burns can end up with very serious complications. So this is a baby, this is a child, 3-year-old infant. And this child has got born because of a skull, and then either coffee, tea, or hot water. And just by using honey, this is a honey mixed with lanolin and vitamin C and A from elmazicran, the compound. So within 14 days, just 2 weeks, from day 0 to day 14, you can see how much improvement, how much progress was made just by applying the honey point. So there are like hundreds of thousands of images like this you can find that honey is a medicine mostly used for women. Okay, not every honey is created equal. We know this, right? We all have honeys, and we also know that there are honey fraud, which means that honey is blended or adulterated with different sugars or cheap honeys. So not everyone is created equal. That's why not every honey has the same medicinal value. So what makes medicinal value is biological activity. So biological activity means how much this food is, this nutritious agent or the therapeutic agent, how much benefit does it provide to our biology. And for honey, we have biological activities such as antimicrobial activity. So honey can kill the bacteria by using four major ways. Number one, honey is highly dense and it has high sugar concentration. About 76% of honey is sugar, so this will cause alcoholic depression. So this is very simple. You can solve the fish doesn't spoil, right? Similarly, if you have too much sugar to the bacteria, they're going to release their water and they shake and die. So this will cause alcoholic depression. The other one is acidity. Most of the honeys are acidic, so between 2.5 to 5. So this acidic environment is not inhabitable by the bacteria. Bacteria doesn't like this low pH and it cannot survive over food. And honey, remember those different compounds, the organic compounds, phenolic acids, flavonoids, and tannins. So these organic compounds are already antimicrobial agents, especially flavonoids are used and studied for antibacterial agents. And last one is hydrogen peroxide. So basically, hydrogen peroxide is when you dilute the honey in water. So when you add water to the honey, so what will happen is that the glucose oxidase enzyme will get activated. So this enzyme will get the glucose molecule and water and convert it into glutamic acid, another acid, and hydrogen peroxide. So this hydrogen peroxide produced by honey is very small percentage. It is 10 times less than that we use for home cooking. So the one we use is 3%. The honey, the hydrogen peroxide produced by the glucose oxidase is 3%. So it shows that this little amount is good enough to the bacteria, but not high enough to irritate itself. So when you use hydrogen peroxide on the food, you need to flush it very quickly, otherwise it will start killing your healthy cells. But for honey, as long as honey is getting water from your body, because honey is hygroscopic, so it will absorb the water or lymph from the body. And as long as the body's water is available, honey will continue to dilute, and as long as it dilutes, it will start producing more and hydrogen peroxide. And this continuous production of hydrogen peroxide will kill the bacteria or will not allow them to grow. So honey is a multiple armor killer. So in the, I learned about antimicrobial resistance. What is antimicrobial resistance? What is antimicrobial resistance? So when the bacteria, they get resistance to the antibiotics. Like there is penicillin resistance, vancomycin resistance, and different resistance that the bacteria can grow. So for this reason, there are 26 different classes of antibiotics in the US. And some bugs or some bacteria which are called superbugs, so they will gain resistance for all these 26 different classes of antibiotics. But honey, which is used for medical purposes for thousands of years, there is no resistance registered or identified for honey. So bacteria cannot resist honey. Why? Because it is sweet. And for all these reasons. Yeah, or same reason we can, yeah. And honey is a very strong antioxidant agent. As you mentioned, inflammation is the major cause, which is caused because of oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, I'm not going to read all these different diseases, but as you can see, it will cause brain disease, lung disease, kidney disease, cardiovascular systems, even joints, immune systems, skin, and everything else. So these oxidative stress cause inflammation, and this is the major reason reason, and I have seen several doctors who are focusing on inflammation to treat different diseases now. Especially naturopathic doctors, they are focusing on suppressing the inflammation to suppress most of the disease in the body. But even the autophagy, like the fasting, intermittent fasting, the main reason is to suppress the inflammation in the body through fasting or through autophagy. So these are all important. So we need to have antioxidants in our diet. So where do we get our antioxidants mostly? What are some sources of food? Some vegetables such as raspberries, strawberries, grapes. They have antioxidants, like pomegranates. Honey is a very strong antioxidant. Phenolics and flavonoids, especially phenolic acid inside honey, they are considered antioxidants. So they will help our body to fight oxidative stress and by this way treat diseases. Honey in the medical markets. Remember we mentioned that honey is available, honey mandates or honey dressings available in the medical market. Let's see how many of them. So these are 12 different companies which are available in the market that honey is embedded them as medical devices. So they either have hydrogels, hydrocolloid sheets, or dressings and so forth. And majority of them, as you can see, they use monocle honey. If you look at the honey type, they use monocle honey, which is originated from New Zealand and which is expensive and hard to find. And another thing about monocle honey is adulteration. So monocle honey is one of the most adulterated honey in the world. There is a common joke, and I think it's also a truth because we get turned down. Monocle honey is produced 10,000 tons in the world, but it is sold 100,000 tons. How can we sell something 10,000 tons as 100,000 tons? By mixing it with other honey and blending. So for this reason, every monocle honey that you buy, especially online monocle honey, is very monocle honey. So we analyzed 40 different monocle samples in our lab that we collected from different parts of the world. It was donated by a professor from the University of Houston. So that we analyzed them, about out of 40, about 15% of them have monocle polymerism. 85% don't have monocle polymerism, which means that they're either blended or filtered. So again, not every monocle is monocle, but what we are doing right now is honey has been used as a medicine for thousands of years, but monocle honey is out in the market for only 30 years. Before that, what we were using, what our ancestors were using, they were using their local goods for medicinal purposes, and I will show why they can compete with blood. But these are some, again, some different medical devices, like hydrogels from maybe honey is the most, the one that is, I don't want to say monopoly, but that has the biggest share in the market. Monocle HD, again, this is one of the big ones. L-mesitron from New Zealand, from Netherlands, and they are out there for 21 years. And MGH, other B-Cure or Revenue. And by the way, these are all approved by regulatory agents, either FDA or CE in Europe, which means that they are medical devices. So they pass the regulation. So in the US, honey was approved as a medical device, for medical device, in 2009 by the FDA. So, which means that honey can be used for medical devices and to be used for primarily for wound healing, but also several other gastrointestinal disease, conjunctivitis, and sore throat and other ones. And one of them is Avis. This is from Memphis, Tennessee, and the one who produced it is a good friend of mine, and he mixed collagen with honey, and then he made this both supporting the skin, but at the same time preventing the inflammation. So, what is medical grade honey then? I mean, how do we identify medical grade honey? By the way, I forgot to add here, I'm one of the authors, actually, I'm the only US author in the definition of medical grade honey, which was published last month in Journal of Wound Care. So, I mean, I feel very privileged for that because the medical grade honey is a new, not new, but this is for the first time it has been like explained in a very comprehensive way. So now, if anybody who is going into the medical honey business, they need to follow those regulations, and also those honeys which should have those properties. So, not every honey is created equal. That's why not every honey is medical. So, what do we analyze to identify medical grade honeys? Physical chemical characteristics, antibacterial activity, and antioxidant activity. What are they? Let's go with those. So, I will show you the results from last semester in fall 24, the honey samples that I collected from you and other beekeepers in Texas. And after that, I will share the results from California honeybees. So, probably you may see, are the Texas honeybees better than California honeybees? Maybe. Okay, so the physical chemical characteristics is basically we measure the pH of the honey. Color, we detect the color of the honey, and as well as we detect the molecule. This will tell us that honey is a honey. So not a sugar blend, not a mixture. And then it's going to kind of give us the let go after the use. And we also do pollen existence, but it's not here. And as you may know, honey has 8 different colors according to USDA. It goes all the way from water white to extra white, and then extra white amber, and dark amber. So as the color goes darker, the bioactivity level is also increasing, especially for antioxidant. And these are the samples that I collected from Texas beekeepers. And as you can see, we have all different colors of honeys in Texas. So, which is great. So, for antimicrobial analysis, there are different methods that can be used. I know the sun is disturbing for someone. If you want to move, I'm okay. Sun is disturbing. If you want to move less sunny areas. So, there are different methods like the metabolic assays or biochemical prevention and so forth. But we focus on undergraduate diffusion. What is undergraduate diffusion? Is the bacteria that causes most of the hospital diseases or hospital infections is Staphylococcus aureus. Or you may remember that one as staph infection. So this is the one that causes staph infection, and this infection is the one that is most common in the hospitals. And you know what number or in ranking of killers? What is the number? What is the rank of hospital infections in the world? No, not percent rank. Number one is heart disease. Say 5. Number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is hospital infections. So these hospital infections are killing more than 1 million people per year. So, and Staph aureus is one of the most first bacteria, the pathogen that causes disease, especially plant resistance. And so what we did is, this is the Staph aureus bacteria, which looks like grapes. And then, so what we do is we grow them or we make a bacterial bone on the petri dish, which is the food for bacteria. And after we make the bone, we open up wells. That's why it's called well diffusion. So into those wells, we add the honey directly, no dilution, just as is. And then we grow them overnight. Next day, we measure this clear zone. So this clear zone means zone of inhibition. So the bacteria could not survive where the honey was put. So as you can see, some of them can have very large zone of inhibition, like this, the one on the center and the left, and some of them can have very little zone of inhibition. And we don't have it here, but when you add sugar only or artificial honey, because we make artificial honey for our experiments to compare, is that the sugar killing the bacteria or phytochemicals like organic compounds killing the bacteria? And we found out when we add sugar, it is smaller than the smallest one. So sugar kills the bacteria, but not too much. So that's why if you make like artificial honey or sugar components, it may not kill the bacteria, but it acts as an antibacterial agent or as a cure. So we grow them and anything according to the CLSI, Clinical Standards of Laboratory Instruments. So anything more than 60 millimeters for Staph aureus is considered as high bioactivity or high antimicrobial. And ta-da! So these are the samples from Texas. Out of 104 samples, 85 of them has larger than 60 milliliters, which means that 83% of Texas honeys are highly antimicrobial. So 18, yes, please, applaud yourself. your name here, just stand up and cheer if you want. But anybody with more than 16, those lines are high antimicrobials. And one more thing, we also compared Manuka honey. Look at the Manukas. We had 10 different Manuka samples, and some of them even couldn't pass 16 millimeters. Which means that not every Manuka is Manuka. And if you see some of the others, we have all the way towards 28 or 30 millimeters, which is double the size of high antimicrobial activity. So some of the Texan honeys are very strong antimicrobials, and they can be used for different infections, not only for wounds, but also for sore throat, eye infection, or even gastrointestinal diseases. And antioxidant activity, so which means free radical scavenging activity. And again, this is a very good number. When you see California, you're going to see that, oh, this is good. So 29%, one-third of Texan honeys can inhibit more than 50% of the free radicals. Again, we don't need to inhibit all of them. If the antioxidant inhibit more than 30%, even that's a big number. But we put as 50% as a cutoff to become, to make them high antioxidant honeys. And again, you can see your name here, or maybe anyone sees the name here? Like, did you guys see your name there? Please raise your hand if your sample was here. Yes. Okay, this is antioxidant activity. By the way, realize I changed your name, I fixed it. So yeah, his name was Risa, and I changed it just before. That's what I was working on this computer. He was very insistent, consistent for 7 months for me to fix the thing. Okay, this antioxidant activity at the high levels. And again, after this, I'm sorry, I forgot the slide in between. By using physical chemical characteristics, antimicrobial activity, and antioxidant activity, we came up with R, which is bioactivity level. This bioactivity level is the keyword for a honey to be classified as medical grade honey. So if you have high or very high bioactivity level honey, but yourself, your honey is a great candidate to become medical grade honey. So look at the numbers, and anything above 60 is high, anything above 80 is very high. As you can see, a good number of Texan honeys are high and very high bioactive honeys. And again, some of them are, look at David Heimerman, it is 100%, Tony Hutchinson is almost 95. And look at the Manukas on the right side. So some of the Manukas, not even 80%, some of them is less than 60%. So which means that Texan honeys can compete or even out-compete the Manuka honeys for their bioactivity levels. So which is a great. Where do you find these honeys? I mean, in which part of Texas we have these high antibacterial, high antioxidant, high bioactive honeys? This map is showing where the bioactivity is increasing. So the yellowness says more dense, higher number of samples from that area has high bioactive honeys. And where is that place? So, north of San Antonio, south of Austin, that is the place for high bioactivity level honeys. So this area, hill country area, has a strong potential. And please don't underestimate this. I present this in the ABF, American Beekeeper Federation. So the whole United States know that high bioactivity honey is available in Texas, hill country. And I will present this in Abrimonte as well. Now the world will know that you guys have great honey here. So, results for Texas honey. High antimicrobial, 85-83%. Moderate antioxidant activity, about 30%. And some of them outperform Manuka honey, especially in terms of bioactivity level. They are very strong candidates to be considered as medical grade honey classification. Let's go with California. Okay, are you ready? Good. Everyone really good. Okay, so we did the color analysis. We also did all of them for Texas honey, but I just want to show California honey's colors. So majority of the Texan honeys are amber to dark amber, or okay, amber dark amber. But in California honeys, which were collected in the fall season, and I got them in spring, so 56% of them are extra light amber. So majority of the northern California honeys are light amber, so they are not dark. And there is not a single dark amber honey. And how many samples did I have? 84 samples. It's a big number. I mean, it's not a 10 or 20. I collected, I went to speak there back in January, and I gave a talk in Santa Clara, Big Hills, which is Silicon Valley. And these honeys are from Silicon Valley and from Bay Area. So one of the most expensive places in the whole country, right? And those beekeepers provided their honeys for analysis. So majority of them are light amber and extra light amber. So in terms of bioactivity, oh boy, they're not very high, right? So they're like 20, the biggest one is 25, but Texas' biggest one is 29. So, and then this is another one. Again, the blue ones are not antibacterial, but the pink ones are more than 16, and purple ones are more than 20. So as you can see, some of the California honey samples, despite their low light color, they have strong antibacterial activity, but not all of them. And this again, continuation of those, and this was the last one, so 84 samples. So, and in terms of antioxidant activity, again, the California samples, anything passes 50, there is none, there is none. There is there are three, and that's it. And even two of them, less than 0%. Because they were not honeys. They were purchased from a market. And the guy who donated the honeys, he said that he purchased them from Baja. When he traveled there, and he just gave the samples, and he found out they are even increasing the oxidative stress. So they are even increasing the glucose. So, yes, you can be proud of Texas for being the high. So, the antibacterial activity of California is very similar to Texas, but antioxidant activity is much higher. So, yes, some of the California honeys can be graded as an equivalent to Manuka honey, because Manuka honey is sold and promoted and marketed for antibacterial activity, not antioxidant activity. So for this reason, some California honeys can be classified as medicinal honey as a biosimilar to the Manuka honey. So, which honey should you buy? This is slide that I prepared. I know somebody will ask which honey I should buy or use for medical purpose. So I will say local honey, definitely, because when we compare local honey to grocery store honey, like the honey that we collected from you, and we got 46 grocery store honeys from Walmart and H&E and Trader Joe's and Costco and audible, international market, and so forth. So all of them, the local Texas honeys are 4 times more bioactive potential than compared to grocery store honeys. 50% more bioactive. So for this reason, I always tell people, go find a local beekeeper and buy your honey from a local beekeeper. You can trust them much more than the grocery stores. So number 1, local. And number 2 is dark. Because the darker the color of honey, the higher antioxidant potential. But antimicrobial activity is not dependent on the color. Antioxidant activity is dependent on the color. So, and comb honey. Why comb honey? Why not? Why is comb honey better than straight honey? So, number 1, the main reason for comb honey is they're also true. As soon as you strain the honey, or as soon as you open up the seal, honey starts getting oxidized. Remember, honey is like getting some oxygen from the air and started to get oxidized. You don't feel that, but eventually, honey will change its color. If you check your honeys from last year to this year, even if you keep it in a dark area, you will see that honey's color is changing because some of the enzymatic reactions are continuing inside. So, naturally dark honey, and in the comb honey, what happens is that these are very stellar organisms. So they don't allow any bacteria or fungi or virus to grow inside the honey. So what they do is once they cure the honey to 18% or less moisture, they seal it with the wax. And after it is sealed, this one is shelf life for thousands of years. It will be fresh, and it will not lose the moisture, it will not lose the properties, no oxidation will happen. So comb honey is is well protected, and number two is comb honey is very, very hard to adulterate or very hard to replicate. So that's why comb honey is more potential for medicinal options. And I know it's not very common to consume comb honey in the US, but back in my country, Turkey, we always buy honey as a frame and then just cut it into a small piece and keep eating it. And comb honey, you can freeze it, you can keep it in the freezer, and then when you need it, you can just take it out from the freezer, thaw it, and it doesn't lose any of the bioactivities. Heat kills the bioactivity, but freezing doesn't affect the bioactivity. So, which means that local natural dark, and comb honey is the best option to choose or to use for medicinal purposes. So, I'd like to bring your attention, if you are more interested in our honey research, what type of different studies we have done or we are doing, you are welcome to go to this QR code. This goes to our honey pet UTSA website, and you can see research of our students. The posters are available, so if you want, you can download them and read about them. So we have more than 30 studies or research we have done in the last 2 years that our students have done, and then they are, and from our students again, 15 of my students out of 26 of them this year, they got awards in the best presentation and the best oral, presentation, 3-minute thesis, and as well as they made videos. So please, I mean, they did a lot and they're very successful. And this year, we got a very big crowd. So these are my undergraduate and graduate students as well as some visitors. And I'd like to thank, Be Mindful for especially Natalia and Les for teaching me how to do beekeeping. So they are my master beekeeper and they are also master beekeeper for the honey pathway students. For the last 2 years, they trained more than 25 beekeepers, and I don't remember the exact number, but it is more than 60% of them got apprentice level beekeepers now. So they got their certificates. So now we have so many beekeepers in Texas that they were trained. And especially Texas beekeeper, those are the ones who discovered me in San Antonio in 2019. Texas TNBA convention, so they invited me as a speaker, and since then they keep inviting me every year to talk about medicinal. And USDA especially for having me providing grants, $2.89 million for 5 years to educate the students about beekeeping, medicinal honey, and honeybee biology. And my students from 23 and 22, and all other my students coming up. So I'd like to thank you so much for your attention.
He could talk here day long. Everything he knows is so amazing, and he can keep you interested for an entire day. So I'm really glad that he managed to keep it in the meeting constraints. But now that we have heard everything that Dr. OZTURK has to say, what questions do you have for him? I'm sure that, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to start with Pam.
What is it about the Texas certain types of plants?
Okay, the most important thing about Texas hill country is there is almost no agriculture. So when you don't have agriculture, you don't have insecticides. That's number one. Pesticides. And number two is the soil of Texas hill country allows the trees to produce more secondary metabolites, which are antioxidant and antimicrobial agents. So bees, because there is not so many wildflowers, or especially in summer during the dearth, they go to trees, and we have a lot of oak trees in there, both live oak and European oak and other oaks. So those oaks, they secrete some sweet material, like a sweet substance, and bees collect it. And this is honeydew honey. And in the honeydew honeys, the amount of antioxidants is mostly higher than floral honeys. So these two reasons, like no agriculture and high secondary metabolites, in my opinion, is the major cause for country. So in other places, yes, we do have dark honeys, but then you have agriculture, like the health of the bees also is affected from those. And also, the higher the elevation of the bees, the higher bioactivity is increasing. So when you go up to the mountains, the bees there, they will have more antioxidant and antimicrobial honeys in them compared to the plants. And you can't use more clean, probably.
We test for pesticides.
Well, this is a very detailed thing. I don't test for pesticides, but Cornell University can test the pesticides. So even from San Antonio, must be so many bees. We will send all of our samples to Cornell University. It's a bit more detailed procedure, and I don't have the equipment for those. Yes. So as soon as you apply heat more than 120 Fahrenheit, it will denature the honey enzymes. So it is still a sweetener. It still has sugar. They are still intact, and they get even caramelized, which will give a great flavor. But it will lose the properties. So what is the best way to enjoy honey for food is just make cold drinks. So add honey into your meat, whatever. So you can add honey for cold drinks, and it will remain all the properties.
Two questions. Question number one: we send our samples to you if we want to. And the second question is: you use it as a medicine, like a wound or say eye infection,
I skipped that slide that was showing how to apply the wounds. So depending on the location of the wound, so we usually either put on if it's a superficial wound, put on the prostrate or band-aid. My kids are always telling me, oh daddy, they say they don't tell me put the mice on band-aid, they say put honey there. So they know that honey is in there. So for deep wounds, it is recommended to pour the honey there and use those pads to go into the tunnels. Because some of the wounds have tunnels under the skin, so you need to push them. And for gastrointestinal, there are two ways. If you use cold honey drink, like if you dilute honey in cold water, even add ice, this will help to hold the area. So it will absorb the water, the intestine will absorb the water, and then it will help with the area. If you have constipation, you need to dilute honey in warm water, not hot water, warm water, and it will help relieve the constipation. So don't mix it and get worse. I will cold for the area, warm for constipation. For eye disease, again, I personally have kids, and also my kids have that one. And what we did was we put honey on the eye and then use the iPad. iPad, yes. So you have an iPad. Yeah, so you can put it. Depending on where the location is, but this is preferable because honey is the most dependent. Every medication is most dependent. So if you use a medication, it might stop working right away. So you may need to repeat it. Like for constipation, you need to use honey maybe twice or 3 times a day. And you may need to use a couple of more instead of like small things. And same thing for eye disease. Again, you may need to apply it before night and in the morning and stuff. Or depending on how severe or disease is, you can adjust it to the direction. Hopefully, when I write a book, I will also give prescriptions, but I don't really have time for that. For the other samples, yes. You must hear the bad news. So, two things. Number one, I'm not teaching the medicinal class next year because of some departmental regulations. When you become very famous, that's what happens. And number two is I'm moving to a different university, which is Soros State University in UTSA. So I will start as an associate professor as a tenure track, and hopefully I will be my own department chair. So I will have less pressure. X-ray, both at UTSA and SUMA. So for this reason, we just paused hunting collections. But the good news is we are working on hiring, renting a lab, so we can still do analysis, but we will probably ask some money to another team. So it will be more business.
My area is the venture studies actually that's
So number one is the mechanism how does the honey help with the dementia or other neurological disorders is not well understood. So what we are doing is two of my students are working on those cells only this summer. One of them is working on Alzheimer's now, and she's growing neurons, young neurons, and then she applies some chemical and it becomes Alzheimer's neurons. So she's applying honey at different concentrations at different bioactivity levels, so that we are trying to find the optimal concentration to apply. But again, this is just an in vitro study, but it is one of the first in the US. So, and other than that, because of oxidative stress, honey's antioxidant properties may prevent the oxidative stress in the neurological disorders and also prevent it. And one other thing, it says a study done in Malaysia. So the telomeres in our cells, which is the KEBAR chromosomes. So you know that beekeepers live about 10% more than the non-beekeepers? It does, yes, they do live more, and scientifically validated by the University of Malaysia. They found out that the telomeres of the beekeepers in the same age group, in the same health conditions, they were about like 10% longer than the non-beekeepers. So there's scientific evidence that beekeepers live longer. So, anyway, there's more reasons to do that. Oh, you can, I don't have it, but there's 2 million blossoms discovering medicinal potential honey. So 2 million blossoms is available in the Amazon. That is one of the few groups that covers the honey medicinal potential. And I will be happy to share some papers if you're interested. My website, I recommend the UTSA. The international website that you can reach out to us. The other book is the honey revolution, or deep honey revolution. So this is mostly focusing on how honey can be a brain food when you are sleeping at night. So because honey is stored as glycogen in the liver, and when the brain eats at night for memory or for filing, so that brain will get that sugar and use it. So honey is a brain food that the new honey revolution is that written by Dr. Fessenden, which is the medical doctor. And the other one is 2 million blossoms, written by Kristen from Germany. So those 2 books are the best books until I recommend. Oh, yes,
I was just wondering if there's any possible way to donate potentially medicinal money to local medical facilities.
Oh, that is a very good question. As I mentioned, I'm in medical grade honey. So, number one, medical grade honey is a very new idea for US. So, and the only or the most approved medical grade honey is molecular honey. And there are a couple of different levels of regulations for this. Number one, storage conditions. If it is heated or not, filtered or not. And also, gamma sterilization, because although no bacteria can live inside the honey, bacterial spores can survive inside the honey, which means that they have a small protection on them. So in order to avoid this, gamma ray sterilization is recommended or required for medical grade honeys. So which means that if you get your medical grade honey and go to the hospital, they cannot apply this because of all these medical limitations. But yes, we are working on developing a medical device at UTSA. So we are happy to have medical grade honeys to be used for our experiments. So first we're gonna work on the cells, then we will have animal studies, and hopefully they will be ready for clinics. So as the medical devices, but it's a great question. Thank you. No, now she needs to ask the question. Hello? Yes.
She's a nurse.
honey for tuberous ulcers 30 years ago. That's what I found. Oh, very, very good. I'm so happy and honored to do these things because unfortunately, honey is the properties of the power of honey is underestimated and is not considered very strong for almost a century. After the advent of antibiotics, honey and other traditional medicines have been put aside. But in 1990s, with Professor Peter Moller from New Zealand, which discovered the manuka honey, and Professor Zuma from the United Kingdom, and Professor Yusuf from Malaysia, those three people has reintroduced honey into the medical world. And Dr. Yusuf from Malaysia, those are he was the first professor who initiated a clinical trial for more than 100 patients, just by using honey in the wounds. So the power of honey is, honey is described as a remedy rediscovered. So we are rediscovering the power of honey as a remedy for our ailments. So hopefully, that's why I'm very hopeful for future the honey pathway as we educate the students about medicinal properties of honey. And about 80 to 90% of my students are pre-health professionals, either medical, dental, or pharmacy. So hopefully we will have although it's small, but we will have an army of doctors or dentists that believe the power of honey for medicinal applications. And hopefully we will spread the word more and more. So honey is medicine. So that's it. Again, thank you so much for your attention.
Grateful and honored to call Dr. OZTURK my really good friend, actually. So thank you very much for being here tonight. And thank you all for being here tonight. If you have further questions, we have a little bit of time. Thank you. And we're twinsy, yes. But so, did you guys like this presentation? Dr. OZTURK draws crowds, literally, because his presentations are always that interesting. So thank you for supporting him and for supporting the club. Next month, we'll have Veronica Hawk that's going to talk about planting and how to prepare for fall planting for honeybees. And she's not, a doctor or anything. She's really a very engaging speaker, and she really is passionate about our subject matter. So I really invite you to come back next month. I will be in Australia on the tour to speak about natural beekeeping for 3 weeks, and on the other side of the world, exactly. But you're in very good hands with Stephanie over here. Dee will be working the reading tables, and Deb over here as well will be working the library. So you're in great hands. If you have any questions, send an email to texasnaturalbeekeepers@gmail.com. But Dr. OZTURK has something else to say.
About Veronica Haupt, we are working with Veronica for more than a year. So she is identifying medicinal potential honeys, the plants for medicinal honeys. So I think that will be a great opportunity for you to see or learn which plants you should be planting in your area to have more medicinal potential honeys.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. You guys are working together. I know that you've been doing that. I have a question real quick, and then I'll go to you, Stephanie. Why do you think the honeys in Central Texas are so high? Is it because the forage sometimes can get so tricky and harsh, the conditions are harsh, and it makes it more concentrated or something?
Yes, in order to survive in harsh conditions, the plants will produce more secondary metabolites, which are tannins and phenolic acid flavonoids. And the harder the drought, the harsher, the honey will be darker. You might have experienced yourself, when you have more drought, you have less honey, but more concentrated. So I think the conditions of Texas having, I don't know how it will happen this year because we have lots of rain and even floods, unfortunately. I'd like to extend my condolences for the ones who lost their lives and also ask for the health of the survivors. So yeah, that's probably the main reason. So we will see how the honeys come out this year, because of the continuous rains or not very hot temperatures.
By the way, that means the honey are going to the levels over time, right?
Yeah, we always get the same amount of same, like the same year. The whole honey and 3 honey are different, and your next is 3 honey different, most likely. And that's why we collect samples from the same because for different years, how much we change.
So, thank you very much for the presentation. My question is from Molly and myself. When she was doing her research, she discovered the Monarda family, families of plants. They release this intense, quite voluminous amount of thymol. And I know beekeepers that use thyme oil for anti-parasitic, antimicrobial. Is there something you can share with us?
That's a very good question. I mean, which plants or which chemicals has more potential? Right now, again, our studies for GCMS or LCMS studies, like metabolic studies, are in the infant level. So we just collected data, but we still could not analyze it. So we do not, I personally do not know exactly which chemicals contribute more for these activities. But I do know that the higher total phenol contents, the higher interaction activity comes out. So if there's more phenolics, it will have more radical scavenging activity. And thymol is, it is a secondary metabolite, but I think it's an alcohol, if I remember. So I really don't know how it affects, but it should definitely have an effect. Yeah, it won't hurt. And if it's helpful for the bees, it should be helpful for the honey and for us.
If it's medicine for us, it probably is medicine for us.
And another maybe takeaway thing is like if your honey doesn't look like honey or smell like honey or taste like honey, it's most likely medicine.
Or when you buy it.
Yeah, not by the way. For example, buckwheat. Buckwheat is my favorite honey in terms of antioxidants. It has like always in my top 10. When I have buckwheat samples, they always go to top 10 for antioxidant activity. But how many of you like them?
Yes.
No, it's a
Great.
that's it doesn't taste like honey, because it's like taste like molasses. That's why
Tastes, awful honey. It's probably really good for you, right? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to see the honey.
So anyway, we have about 10 minutes to kind of mingle. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, I'm your president, Natalie B. Stephanie is your vice president over here, next to Deb over there at the greetings table, who's your librarian. And I'm really very grateful for you making the trip tonight. Thank you for everything, and thank you for Dr. Oster for making the trip all the way from San Antonio. Thank you guys. Feel free to mingle for the next 10 minutes or so. You can take it to the parking lot after that. And let us know if you have any questions. I almost forgot the door prizes. Thanks, Super, for reminding me. Holly, you can't leave. You need to pick your door prize. Oh, you're not supposed to pick your up. Okay. Okay, pick your numbers, take your tickets, and look at the last 2 digits. We're going to do door prizes. We have a top bar and some shins of the front with the sizes. We have repair bars that work for bars and any frames you have. We have a lighter for a little neck for your smoker. You have several of those bars. There's 2 black and 1 yellow from Be Mindful. We also have a frame with a foundation. We have a strainer for crush and strain. You can do that with anything like comb honey or with any frame honey. This is a floater for a water device, so you can the bees can drink through the holes. There's a pair of bee stocks. There's another, so there's 4 of those. There's you can come. I mean, I couldn't hear for Dr. Oster, but I think that you also came in here also a little bit for the door prizes, right? So this is a nitrile gloves 14 mil medium, and this is a large one. Miss Mary over here. I saw her just a second ago. Miss Mary is over here. She donated some burlap for perfume. She also donated some earrings that she made, some mini earrings. Thank you, Miss Mary. We really appreciate you. Miss Jill over here donated some ice cube trays that you can also use for chocolates or anything you have sweet treats. Wax little cubes, pre-measured, thank you. We have 2 disc entrance reducers for leg shots on top. Really nice, it's a candy mold in the shape of little honeybees or hexagons right here. There's, I just go with one here that has a sweet tooth. It's a honeycomb chocolate. It's organic honey caramelized into crisp bits and rolled in dark chocolate. We have a couple of and Texas bluebonnet seeds. Then we have some stickers and magnets with plants, native plants, and stickers like this. We have also a lemongrass beeswax door, basically. We have a little keychain. And there's a little queen cage. There's a lot tonight, guys. There's 2 of these little feeders. You put those on those sticks that are in there, and the lid is poked with holes. You can use that with top bars in the back of it, or inside the hat, or leg straps with an additional super on top to make space for it. And I want to say, my friend Lolly designed these stickers right here. So that's my favorite for my computer. She designed one for my car. I came back one day, it was all the back of my window, so I'm really grateful. She's very talented. She's a silversmith and goldsmith, and she designs things like that. So with that being said, I want to pick the tickets. So look at your last 2 digits. I think a lot of you will be getting something, so what we're going to do is I'm going to call a number. You come and pick whatever table that you like, and I'm going to call the number as you come up so that we speed up the process, okay? And everybody, when we call the number and somebody says, this is my number, everybody applause, okay? So let's make it again. Hi, Bobbies. Okay, 81. 81, who's the first one? 81. Come on, nobody left. Somebody's got to have 81. I didn't get a ticket, by the way. Either. I want a chocolate, man. Okay, 81's not working. Let's do this one. 78. Woo, 78. She counts and picks. I'm going to call number 75. 75. Came in. Oh, that's the burlap. So those are burlap. Honey, did you do that? Awesome. She cut up a bunch of pieces